Akira had never liked the Shibuya Scramble crossing much. He'd adapted to Tokyo's endless crowds well enough after the first few weeks. His initial foray into the metro had been an ugly thing. He'd wandered in circles for what felt like days, the announcements brightly rattling off train after train that he should have boarded but didn't, throngs of people with their eyes on everything but him, and him either too proud or too bitter to ask for directions. But the Scramble was a different story. At peak hours, the mob became so thick that its collective heartbeat turned tectonic, the air rendered humid by all those mashed bodies, their chatter rendering even the most well-crafted earbuds worthless. On, a battle-scarred veteran of the 109, had told him it cleared out nicely once the train stopped running, but he'd never dared to sneak out of LeBlanc that late. He didn't know if it was possible to hospitalize someone with a cappuccino, but Sojiro probably would have found a way. The Dead Sea had changed off all of that. The Scramble stood bare, a fissured and ravaged asphalt desert. The swirls and whirls of neon limning its periphery had all been sapped. Limning sounds like an interesting word. With the surrounding buildings' posters wiped blank and television screens gone dark, it almost looked like a concept of itself, a life-size model whose pain had all bled away. The sea of souls, drinking identity in hue and finally form itself, until it all rejoined that great churning mass of diffused thought. The Q-front building looked worse than most. Once its 6 stories of TV screens had displayed the Phantom Thieves' declaration of war to Masayoshi Shido, their digitally masked voices issuing their challenge straight to his corrupted heart. Lola! Lola! Sorry, that's my dog Lola. Now all that glass was blinded, and cracked and fallen in, and the store logo blended into the grey anonymity around it. But if someone stood outside it and looked in, then they would have seen a splotch of red through the second-floor windows, as Akira put his palm up against the glass. I have to admit, when you said that you wanted to show me something, I wasn't expecting a Starbucks. Oh. No, that's wrong voice. I have to admit, when you said that you wanted to show me something, I wasn't expecting a Starbucks. Not a fan. Akechi had pulled up a stool at the counter. Not really. Never will be after tasting Sojiro's coffee. Don't get me started. I was never much of an aficionado for the stuff, but after sampling Mr. Sakura's work, every other cup made me want to scrub my tongue with steel wool. Aki returned back to the shop. Logo darkened, glasses gone, linoleum cracked and streaked with moisture. Akechi had slouched in his seat, one elbow on the bar. In that armor, it was almost farcically mundane. Why here? Akira asked. Excellent acoustics, for one. No one can approach within 50 feet of me without giving oneself away. These windows provide a decent view of the whole crossing. It's elevated, which I found to be important. He only hunts on street level. Akechi wrapped in the bar top. Also, it's holding together reasonably well. I grew tired of sleeping on the floor. Fair enough. So it's kind of like a secret base, huh? I suppose you could call it that. I tended to alternate between here and Yongenjaya on my expeditions. If you wanted to draw our adversary's attention again, this would be an excellent spot to lay low and wait for his approach. Sounds good. Just let me rest my feet first. He pulled out a chair, gave it a quick shake to ensure it could bear his weight, and sat down, propping his feet up on the table. The ceiling overhead was blackened with water. He looked for patterns in that rot as if they were ink blots. "Hey, Akechi," he said. "Just wanted to let you know. When I told you all that stuff about my past, I wasn't whining or anything." "Never thought you were." "Alright. Just figured it'd be pretty dumb of me to come off that way, considering what you went through. When you were a kid and all." "Please, Kurusu. I brought most of that on myself. My childhood wasn't pleasant, but you think I would have realized that prolonged exposure to Shido isn't good for anyone's well-being?" His talons drummed on the bar top. "You said that things began to look up for you when you encountered Sakamoto?" "Yeah, he's a good guy. Not really as dumb as he acts either." "That wouldn't be hard," Akechi said dryly. "I was just wondering, how might things have turned out if I'd been the one you met first instead? You're clearly a good influence on people. Maybe you could have turned me onto a better path." "You really believe that?" A pause. "No. I would have made you an accomplice and then killed you when you ceased to be useful." "There you go. Not much point in self-deception anymore," he said wistfully. "I suppose I truly am irredeemable, aren't I?" "I don't know. It's hard to change who you are. It's impossible to change who you used to be." Akechi blinked. "That was remarkably pithy." "I got it off a popsicle stick." "Really?" "Maybe." "Your sense of humor is atrocious," he groaned. "But while we're on the subject, I was always curious about something. When we did meet in the TV station last year, what was your first impression of me? I tried to come off as charming, but clearly everyone saw through that." "I thought you had fantastic hair." What?" Dead serious this time. He looked over at Akechi's boggled expression and shrugged. "Hey, you asked. What about me? What made you single me out?" "Smart money's on the glasses." Akechi smiled. "Believe it or not, I was being genuine when I first explained myself. The way you treated me in that studio was refreshing. I'm in the habit of judging my behavior based solely on others' reactions to me. Mirroring them, I guess you could say. But you never gave me much to work with. You behaved like I was anyone else." "You were, as far as I was concerned. Haircut aside." "Yes. And then you stood in defense of the Phantom Thieves, so naturally that piqued my interest. Then I started checking into your background and—" He stopped, looking like he'd just bitten his tongue. Akira raised an eyebrow. He recognized that expression from spending time with Ryuji. It was the face of someone who'd started a sentence they badly didn't want to finish. But then he took a deep breath and started to speak. He was interrupted by a distant rumbling, a steady mechanical purr. Akira bolted upright in his chair. "Is that him?" Akechi coughed, regained his composure. "I'm not certain. It doesn't sound like chains." "What else could it be, though? Definitely isn't an ever-falling building." He sprang up and went to the window. "Getting closer to. I think this is it." "Fine, yes. Please tell me you have a plan." "Standard attack and support. I'm packing some heavy hitters right now, so I just need you to watch my blind spots and run interference." "Straightforward but workable." Akechi's broken visor appeared to gleam from within. I'll have to favor Robin Hood. Loki's performance has been extremely disappointing of late. Fine with me. The persona might have given you a dumbass outfit, but it had a lot of neat tricks. Trust me, you have no idea. Akechi gestured to the exit. Shall we? I shall. You stay here and watch from the window. Akechi's visible eye narrowed. I don't... If things look like they're going south, then smash the window and come out swinging. It'll give me a moment's distraction too. Akira straightened his coat. You've been dealing with this asshole long enough. Let me go on the front lines. Very well, Akechi said. Just don't die. He nervously clicked his claws together. If nothing else, your testimony will probably be required at my trial. One thing at a time, man. It's not over until we say so. Akira exited the cafe, pattered down the frozen escalator, and exited through the front. That guttural rumble was now very close. Akechi was right. It sounded nothing like the stranger's usual approach. Either that meant there was yet another hostile down here, or their quarry knew that an encounter was inevitable and decided to pull out all the stops. He traced the edges of his mask. Blue sparks trailed wisp-like across his finger. He could feel Akechi's gaze on him from above. A distant light. A cold blue glow that spilled out from the far street and coated the deadened buildings like ice. Akira squinted at it. That particular color looked very familiar. He remembered it cutting through the shadows, figuratively and sometimes literally, as he and the other thieves made their way through the dripping labyrinth of mementos. The van turned the corner and entered the scramble. The glare from those pupiled headlights hit Akira head-on, and he raised a hand to shield his eyes as the world went white. Through that gleam he heard the engine rev up to a roar, the screech of brakes, and then silence. He lowered his hand just in time for about 20 pounds of anthropomorphized feline to hit him square in the face. Hi Morgana, how have you been? Sorry about the sushi last night. Akira! His nose and mouth were full of fur, but he could still hear approaching footsteps and Ann's and Haru's cries of delight. He tried to pull Morgana off, but he just wriggled out of his grip and leaned back enough to glare him down. Those gigantic eyes looked downright unsettling from an inch away. You had me worried sick, he shouted, gripping Akira's coat. Do you have any idea what I went through to get us all? Yeah, explain later, Ryuji said, and casually scruffed Morgana and yelled him away. Yeet! Akira heard a distant growl, a distant yowl and splash as Ryuji companionably draped one arm across his shoulders, then gripped his neck in the crook of his elbow and squeezed. What's up, man? Ryuji said happily. We missed you, can't you tell? I can tell, yeah. The headlock tightened. Ryuji, not to spoil the moment, but I can't breathe. Yeah, haha, I know. His voice had gained a distinctive edge. I don't know, we've been going through a lot of shit with you gone. Figured you were in danger of dying or something. So seeing you just chilling out in this spooky-ass place has got me kinda pissed off. A lot of complicated feelings right now, you get me? Ryuji, don't kill him, Makoto said. We just got here. It's the reunion of the Phantom Thieves! Ha Nah, I ain't gonna do that. Ryuji released him and planted a hand in the small of his back, shoving him forward. I think someone else's dibs. Futaba stood there. She propped her goggles up on her forehead and folded her arms behind her back. Her expression was unreadable as she slowly approached Akira. Hey, Akira said, for want of anything better. Hi. Futaba pointed at the ground. Could you bend down a little bit, please? The other thieves had assembled behind Akira, watching expectantly. With the exception of Morgana, who was throwing a black look Ryuji's way. Akira's own face was that of someone facing his execution. He got down to one knee, wincing a bit as cold water seeped through his pants. Futaba barely came up to his chest if he stood up straight. Now his face was within optimal smacking distance. She bit her lip and stepped forward, and as Akira braced himself, she threw her arms around him and buried her face in his neck. The scramble had gone quiet, save for Futaba's sobbing. Why did you have to go? She cried. Akira's skin burned from the heat of her tears. You left without saying anything! Akira hugged her back. He was dearly grateful that no one could see his face right now. I thought it was my fault you got sick. Did you even get sick? What happened? What did I do? I left because of her call. I was trying to fix this. I didn't want you to be upset. She choked out a laugh and weakly punched his side. Mission failed, moron. I know. He palmed the top of her head, patted her gently. I screwed up. I'm sorry. Futaba was the driving force behind our expedition, said Yusuke. She took charge magnificently in your absence. Shut up, Inari! She raised her head and glared at him, sniffling. I just pitched a tantrum until everyone did what I wanted. Yes, well, everyone has their own form of leadership. Yusuke's not the type to lie, Akira said. Sounds like you've come a long way since last year, huh? She pushed away from him, knuckling away her tears. I did good? I don't think an entrance to this place is even supposed to exist, but you found it anyway. That's pretty badass. Futaba tried, and failed, to hide her grin. I'm still mad at you. Fair enough. You can think of a way for me to make it up later. You'll be making it up to all of us, Akira, An said sternly. Premium sushi will be just the start, Morgana added. Yeah, hey, this is fun and all, but we're kind of missing something, Ryuji said. Where the hell is Akechi? Akira turned back to them. Oh, you knew he was here? He's keeping watch right up. He pointed at the second-story window and then noticed they were all empty. Ah. Wait, so you're buddies now? He ain't responsible for this paranoia syndrome shit? Buddies is pushing it a little. He tried to kill me again. Ryuji's eyes flashed. No, it's cool. He messed up even worse than last time. Futaba, where is he? She brought up her console again, tracing that spindly green grid. He's pretty much right on top of us. Must still be in Q-front. Akira rolled his eyes and stood up and stomped past the thieves and into the building. They stared at his back, bewildered, and then followed him inside. Akechi? Hey, Akechi! Come out already! His voice echoed through the hollowed-out lobby, but no response came in its wake. Akira drew his pistol and pulled back at the side. Do I need to start shooting again? I'll give you the count of 3. 1, 2... All right! Quiet down, you idiot! Akechi's voice was a fierce whisper. He poked his head out from around one of the nearby shops, his posture sagging and dismayed. When the rest of the thieves turned their attention from him, he flinched as if their gazes stung. Akira holstered his gun. You ran and hid? Come on, man, what are you, 5? I thought that if your teammates saw us together, it may have resulted in hostilities. He panned the expressions on the thieves' faces, making particular note of Ryuji's. That may still be the case. Relax, guys, Akira said. He's not the enemy here. Good enough for me, Makoto said. Anyone have a problem with that? Ryuji? Are we good? Yeah, he replied, through grit teeth. We're good. Akechi swallowed hard and stepped out fully before the thieves. He contrived to look non-threatening. Considering that he was still dressed like a Corvid-themed supervillain with a persistent haunted look in his eye, this was not easy. But then Haru stepped out from the group and tried to smile. Hello again, Akechi, she said. I'm glad you're alive. He stared, then looked past her at Akira. I think we better sit down. Ah, I'm quite surprised at that. Haru being the first of them to step up and, well, she did say that she sympathized with Akechi despite being unable to forgive him for the death of her father. Well, this has certainly gotten interesting.